So I've been lucky enough to get hold of one of the first Hori Onyx Wireless Controllers in the UK. They were only released on Monday, and there was an issue with the first batch. They talked about it being delayed till February, but fortunately mine arrived today. Woohoo! Thank you, Amazon. Now, for those of you that haven't heard of the Hori Onyx Wireless Controller, it's a controller that's basically aimed at us Xbox One users, because it has offset sticks, as you can see on the pictures. Now, I've used the PlayStation before there were analog controllers full stop. I can remember when the dual analog came out, the DualShock 1, the DualShock 2, DualShock 3, and of course now the DualShock 4 that we all use with our PlayStation 4s. For me though, with my big hands, the problem I have with the DualShocks is my thumbs just don't sit in the right place. So Hori bringing out something like this is absolutely brilliant. Now there are already offset stick controllers for the PlayStation 4, but the Hori Onyx Wireless Controller, as it says, is wireless. All the others so far are wired. So this is a big step in the right direction. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to unbox it, and I'm going to sit it down with the DS4 and the current Xbox One X controller, and we're going to see sort of what the differences are and how it sits in the hand. So without further ado, I'm going to crack it open. If I can get my fingers under the tape. It was interesting to see recently that Microsoft are going to bring the old Duke controller back from the ancient days of the original Xbox. I was more of a fan of the X myself, but here we go. Right, so cardboard box, some more cardboard wrapping, some instructions showing me how to connect, in case you're interested. I would imagine it's fairly similar to everything else. USB cable not included with this product. Please use the one that comes with a PS4 system or purchase separately. Naughty. The controller itself. Now already I can feel that it has a good weight to it. It feels heavier than the DualShock 4. So let's have a look. Go to the bag. So here we go. Yeah. As you can see, the sticks are offset, but it's still got the touchpad. Let's try it on this camera. Now the thing that concerned me from looking at the photos was how the O button sat, the circle button. So let's have a look at that in close up. So we can see that it is proud at the edge here. Let's have a look on the main camera. But from putting my hand on it, that doesn't feel too bad actually. You can see that the controls are in a much more Xbox style fashion. Now some people will laugh here if I say this, but there are games that I've got on my PS4 Pro and my Xbox One X that I'm actually remarkably better at on the Xbox than I am on the PlayStation. That's the same game. Games like Star Wars Battlefront, Ultratron, and Geometry Wars 3. There's absolutely no reason other than the controller why I should be better on one system than the other. So that's why I forked out for the Hori Onyx Wireless Controller. Now, it's third party but officially licensed, and unfortunately it's exactly the same price as a DualShock 4. So you're looking at £40 to £45 depending on where you buy it. So let's have a look at the controller in a bit more depth. Let's turn it over. We can see pretty much where we would expect. We have the USB charge port, but notably we don't have the light bar. So let me get a DualShock 4 and show you the difference. So here we go. So you can immediately see, there we go, one has got a light bar, one hasn't. Other than that though, the share button and the option button are on the same side, if not in the same position. And the D-pad is exactly where I would expect it to be on a controller like this. So how does it compare? How does it sit in the hand compared to an Xbox One controller? Let's put the two next to each other and have a look. So we can immediately see when we put the two controllers next to each other, they're pretty much the same size. The Xbox controller flares slightly more at the bottom, but the thumbsticks are in pretty much the same place, as is the D-pad. The four buttons are slightly further over on the Hori because there's a touchpad in the way rather than just a Xbox button like there is on the Xbox controller. And it's quite odd to find a PlayStation button on a offset controller like the Hori, and I found that quite difficult to get used to. Let's put them next to each other anyway and see what they're like side by side. So there's not a great deal of difference in it. If anything, the Xbox controller has its X, Y, B and A buttons inset slightly more, which obviously, given where the touchpad is on the Hori wireless controller, you can't do. That's probably why we've got the circle button in a slightly odd place. So if we look at the circle button in profile, we can see that it does stand up slightly. Is that going to be an issue? There's no real lateral movement on it, so hopefully not. In terms of how it sits in the hand, it sits quite nicely. If I were to show you the back of the controller, you may not be able to see it, but the back of the hand grip is quite textured, so that's different to the Xbox One controller. And if I look at the back of the Xbox One controller as well, you can see the construction is multi-piece. There's obviously the battery compartment, but the sides and the back are two separate pieces. There's obviously a controller and headphone port on the bottom. The build on the Hori is slightly different. It's only a back and a front piece. And the other thing to note, that there is no headphone controller. So I'm afraid you'll have to go wireless if you want to use headphones. How does the Onyx wireless controller from Hori compare to the DS4? Well, I happen to have my anniversary edition wireless controller here. So, size-wise, if I put one above the other, you can see that the DS4 is actually bigger. Now, I have weighed these controllers, and a lot of people complain that the DS4 feels a bit light and flimsy in their hands. The DS4 itself weighs 200 grams. The Xbox One controller, which a lot of people say feels sturdier, particularly one of those, that weighs 260 grams, so it's 60 grams heavier, which in the scheme of things isn't a great deal of weight, but obviously in the context of 60 grams onto 200, it's quite a big increase in terms of percentage. The Hori itself weighs slightly over 200 grams, so it's actually more akin in weight to the DS4 than it is the Xbox One controller, which is quite interesting. But the million-dollar question is obviously, how does this compare to this when it comes to gaming? Well, only one thing to do there, isn't there? We've got to hook it up to my PS4 Pro, give it a go. So rather annoyingly, I have to connect the new Onyx wireless controller using traditional DS4. I navigate to settings, Bluetooth devices, and then I pick up the Onyx controller. I hold down the share button and the PlayStation button, and I wait. It's having a look. Let's see if it's detected. I have a flashing light on my controller, and it appears, it shows on the Bluetooth device menu as Onyx Wireless Controller. So I then have to scroll down using my existing DualShock 4, select it, and wait for it to pair. Do I want to register this Bluetooth device? X on the old controller. Yes, and it's working, so I can log in now. How much battery? Not very much battery, but I get a blue indicator light on the controller, as you can see. Let's fire up a game. Let's play one of my favourites, one that I'm particularly better at on Xbox than I am on PlayStation. All games, I've got a fair number here. Let's go right to the bottom, pick my favourite twin stick shooter, Ultratron. It's loading, start the game. Ultratron's on special offer on the PlayStation Store sale at the moment. Pick it up for a few quid. As far as twin stick shooters goes, it's absolutely brilliant fun. The problem I have with DualShock 4s is, to be honest, my left hand thumb always feels on the verge of falling off the controller because of where it is. I don't have particularly big hands, but it's a problem that I find from racing games to twin stick shooters like this. I'm markedly better at playing first person shooters on the Xbox One, even if it's the same game. So whenever I play local multiplayer with the kids on Star Wars Battlefront, I always make sure I fire up the Xbox rather than the PlayStation. At least I give them a bit of a closer run then. So whizzing around, the controller feels precise. The analog sticks, I think, are in a pretty good place. The triggers, they don't feel as nice as the triggers on a Xbox One controller, but they're no worse than they are on the DualShock 4. Right. So Ultratron's basically a Robotron clone. Various bits and bobs to do on it. I quite like the jerky graphics and whatnot. And Smart Bomb went off fine, that's good. Let's kill this lot as well. Oop, another swarm's appeared. Well, so far, this is remarkably good. Obviously, I've only had a brief play here, but it's paired okay, it's connected. I understand that the first batch were recalled due to quality assurance issues. Apparently, somebody I was chatting to on Twitter said they were not holding a charge, so they were pulled back. Right, I think that's enough. It's very odd with a Hori Onyx Wireless Controller having a little tiny PlayStation button there. It's in pretty much as close to the same place as you could get with the DualShock 4, but the feel of the controller, when you're not looking at it, you glance down and you expect to see an Xbox button on it. It's quite uncanny. So the big omissions, obviously, are the lack of a headphone port, but it's also lacking a built-in speaker. So if you like the odd game where it talks to you through the handset while you're playing it, you won't get that with this. But what you will get is a controller that is pretty much as close to your Xbox One controller as you can get. And as far as I can see, for people like me that prefer the Xbox controller, that is a pretty sweet deal. So, thank you for watching. Like the video if you found it useful. If you didn't, leave a comment and say why. Thanks.